Hello and welcome. In this video we are going to take a deep dive on UiPath Test Manager. So let's take a look at the bigger picture first. So here you can see how Test Manager interacts with other tools. On the right hand side you see tools from UiPath. We have the robots, which are there to execute automation for RPA and for automated testing. We have the orchestrator, which orchestrates automation of any kind. And we have Studio Pro, which lets us build automation for RPA and for automated testing at the same time. So in addition, we can use a CI/CD pipeline to trigger execution through Orchestrator. On the left-hand side, you see a list of popular ALM tools. So we have Atlassian Jira, we have SAP Solution Manager, ServiceNow, and Azure DevOps. So those tools are commonly used to manage the application lifecycle, all the development, and also some of those tools are capable of doing test management. So there is an X-ray component, which is a plugin for Jira of a ServiceNow, the test management 2.0 component. Azure DevOps also has capabilities in that area. And in addition, we have an SDK which we ship with the product, and this you can use to create custom integrations. So what is Test Manager doing actually? Test Manager, first of all, is the Test Manager Hub. This is a service which runs in the background. This is a server component which does all the integration work between the tools on the right side and the tools on the left side. In addition, it has extensive test management capabilities, which you can use by using the Test Manager app. This is a web app which is hosted from the Test Manager Hub, which lets you do test management. So enough said, let's take a look how this actually works. So this is Test Manager. In Test Manager, work is basically organized in projects. You can create as many projects as you want. So each tile here is one project. You can add them to favorites and you can search for them. So in this example, we are going to use the UI Bank demo project. This is a demo around the UI Bank. So this is a virtual bank, not a real bank. Also not real money, but a whole lot of fun to automate. So that's why we use it in this example. So let's start with the requirements section in Test Manager. I could create a requirement here by just clicking on Create Requirement. I could give it a name and hit Create, and this would be perfectly fine. But this is not the way how it's usually done. Usually, requirements come from user stories or other ways they are defined in agile planning tools like Jira. So let's go to Jira and see what we can do there. So let's see what happens if we create a user story here. Let's say we create a user story and we want to be able to create a checking account in our UI Bank application. Let's just create it in the current sprint. It's easy and straightforward. And let's see what happened in Test Manager. So in Test Manager, when we refresh, we can see that this requirement has also been created in Test Manager. So the moment you create it in Jira, it gets created in Test Manager as well. Let's take a look how this looks like. Not a lot what we need to focus on here. We could add some custom fields, we could add some attachments here, just drop them in from the file system or hit the add document button and select. Everything works here. We have a convenient link here which lets us jump directly into Jira. To this requirement or user story in that case. If you want to change the name or add some description, please do so in Jira. This gets instantly synchronized to Test Manager. So what we want to do next is we want to create a test case and add it to this requirement. In order to do that, we select from the tasks menu, assign new test case. We could also assign an existing test case, but we want to create a new one. So let's do that. Let's create a test case, give it the same name. Create checking account. So we could give it a version as well. And let's give it a label. Let's say this should be part of the smoke test. This is just a label that lets us find the object easily afterwards. So let's hit create and let's see what happens. So actually we did two things. We created a new test case and assigned it to this requirement. We could add a lot of test cases here, but let's stick with that one. Let's jump into the test case by clicking on the key. So we switch to the test case. A quick run through, we could add some description here, we could add some additional labels here. We see there are no results because of course this test case has not been executed so far. So custom fields, attachments, the same like with requirements. Manual steps, I can add some manual steps here if I want to make the test case a manual test case, but we want to go for automation in that example. So let's take a look. If we select the automation tab, it tells us there has no automation been added to this test case so far. So let's automate this test case. For that purpose, we open Studio Pro. I already prepared a test case, create checking account here. This is an automation which opens a browser window, navigates to the UiPath application, logs in and creates an account there. In the end, a little trick, we validate the success message. I just added some characters here at the beginning because I want this test case to fail. So in order to show you how we can deal with a failed test case. So we have an automation here. Let's assign this automation to the test case in Test Manager. In order to do that, we select Link File to Test Manager from the Test Manager item in the menu. So here the correct project is already selected. If I just leave that as it is, the name is new test case, this would create a new test case in Test Manager. But we already created the test case in Test Manager, so let's select it here. Create checking account. This is the test case which we just created in Test Manager. Let's select it and hit OK. And we are done. If I want to make sure if it's the correct test case, I can always open the Test Manager menu and select the Open Test, which would open the browser window and open the test which is associated with this automation. The unlink would just remove the linkage. But we are good for the moment. So one important thing we need to do is we need to publish that change to Orchestrator. So Orchestrator knows about this association between this automation and the test case in Test Manager. Let's click Publish on the toolbar. Let's leave that on the default values, hit the Publish button again, and we are done here. So let's take a look at the Orchestrator. This is the Orchestrator. The Orchestrator has a testing section, and we are here in the test sets list. So the UiPath smoke test, this is the test set which I want to use to execute the test case which we just automated. So let's edit the test set. Let's make sure the correct package is selected here. Let's click next. So there is already a bunch of tests in this test set, 3 to be precise, and the create checking account test case is the one we just published to Orchestrator. So let's select that one. Let's click Save, and we are done here. So I could now start the execution from Orchestrator. You could also start the execution via the API, via CI/CD pipeline, absolutely not a problem. But what we want to do is we want to invoke the execution of this test set, the smoke test set from the Test Manager. Let's see how this works. So let's go back to Test Manager and select the Test Sets section. We click on the link symbol because we want to link the test set from Orchestrator to Test Manager. Let's search. The UiBank smoke test is the test set we are looking for. Let's select it and hit the link button. So you can see here the smoke test set has been added. We can check if we have the correct test cases inside. Yeah, we have the create checking account and some other ones. The create checking account has not been executed so far. This column on the right side always shows the latest result from the latest execution. So let's give it a try and see what happens when we execute that. So it takes a couple of seconds till Orchestrator starts the execution. The execution will be done by the local robot on my machine here. So a result has been created, but it's empty so far because the execution is underway. So this is the UiBank application and this is our test, how it runs. It creates a new checking account and it validates the success message and the account name, and then we are done. So we wait a couple of seconds till Orchestrator uploads all the results to Test Manager. Currently we have 3 passed and 1 failed, and this is what we expected. So the 3 test cases which were already there, they are passed, and we have 1 failed test case. Let's see what went wrong here. Let's click on the failed test case, and here we can see all the steps that have been executed. So this is everything that happened during the execution. This is the verification and that failed. So it tells me this was the message which was all actually there, and this is what we expected. You remember we tweaked it a little bit to make it fail. It also created a screenshot while executing. This is also added here. So after analyzing that, we can decide that this is a major problem and we want to create a defect in Jira. So at the moment there is no defect associated here. We want to make that decision. So let's open the task menu and click the create defect item. It just takes 2 or 3 seconds and the defect is created in Jira. So once this has finished, you can see a link here, GUD106. This is the ID in Jira and it is a link. I can just click on it and it opens the defect that has been associated in Jira. This is very convenient because it holds all the information from the test result in Test Manager. It also has the screenshot attached and it has a link to Test Manager. I can jump directly to this result page to just if I want to check the context, I have some additional information here. One important thing, and this is the last thing which closes the demo here. This defect has actually been associated with the user story which we created. So all the information about how objects are linked have been persisted, and this defect is now linked to the requirement, so meaning it affects the user story which we created in the beginning. So this is quite a quick run through a very popular pattern how you use Test Manager and test automation from UiPath in your development process. So there is another pattern which is also quite common. So you might want to ask now, but what if I already have a test management solution? So I built up a testing portfolio. I have done a lot of manual testing, which worked quite well. But in future, I want to look into automation and I want to use UiPath for that. So do I need to throw away all the assets I have been creating, all the reports I've been putting together? So the answer is no. We support a second pattern for integrating, and I will show you how this works. So in this example, we are going to use X-Ray. X-Ray for Jira. This is a plugin for Jira, which is quite popular for test management. This is already installed here, and what it basically does is it lets us create tests and manage tests and report on those tests. So what we want to do here is we want to create a test case in X-Ray, and we want to use UiPath Studio to automate it. Let's see how this works. Let's create a test. So we hit the create button. Test is already selected. This is actually an X-Ray test. Jira itself does not have any artifact like a test or so. And let's just create a different type of account. Yeah. Let's create a savings account. So once I created this test case, I can directly open it to see, but this is not important at the moment. It's just important at the moment it is there. So we can see one thing here, UiPath automation. It's the same message we got before in the test manager. And one important thing comes next. We can close the test manager because we will not use it. We will use the X-Ray plugin instead. So we have our test case here. So what did we do before? We will do it again. Let's go to Studio Pro. Studio Pro, I already prepared a create savings account automation here. It does the same like the test case before. It just creates a different type of account, a savings account. So let's see if we can assign that to our X-Ray test case. The same what we did before. Let's see, create savings account. Let's select it and hit OK. Let's see what happened in X-Ray for Jira. Let's refresh. And as you can see, the UiPath automation field is now holds a value and information that tells us where to find an automation which has been assigned here. So in the project UiPath Demo TM create savings account, it's exactly this one test case here. So again, what we do is we publish this test case to the orchestrator, so orchestrator knows about this association. Same thing like we did before. Again, we are going to add this test case to our test set in orchestrator. So we switch to orchestrator, open the test set, make sure the correct package is selected, hit next, and add the create savings account. Let's leave the checking account there as well. Both will fail, by the way, because I tweaked both in the same way. And let's now execute the test set. We hit run, select OK. In this case, we have to do that from orchestrator. And we see how the test cases are executed. So the first three are fairly quick. They run in the background. The other two, the two we created, they are UI test cases. They take a little longer. So first we create the checking account. We do the validation. It will fail, of course. And let's do all that again with a savings account. So browser window is closed. We are done here. So let's see how this looks like in X-Ray for Jira. This is our test case. Let's refresh and let's see what happened. We scroll down, and as we can see, we have one test run where this test case was used in. So let's open the test run and take a look. Actually, we have one result, which was a failed result. We can go to the details here We see the validation, the verifications which we did. And we can see the screenshot which has been created during the execution. In the end, what we do here for X-Ray, we create a test run with all the test case which have automation assigned and are known in X-Ray, and we add the results from those test case to this test run. So, and this is what you see here. So that's the deep dive into Test Manager. I hope you enjoyed it. See you on the next video. Thank you for watching.